Picture a quiet morning. The house is still mostly dark. But someone is in the kitchen.
Just making coffee or getting the day started.
Right, exactly. You hear that familiar sound of a coffee mug hitting the counter. And across the house, a senior bull terrier senses that activity.
They never miss a thing.
I mean, the desire to be right there in the middle of the action, to see what might drop on the floor or just be part of the pack, it hasn't diminished one single bit since she was a puppy.
Oh, absolutely not. The brain is definitely still willing.
Yeah, but her body takes a little longer to catch up. You watch her shift her front paws forward, plant them carefully, and genuinely pause to gather her strength before pushing her back legs up off the dog bed.
And well, that pause tells you so much about the biology of an aging animal. I mean, overnight, the synovial fluid in her joints has just thickened up.
Right, because she's been resting.
Exactly. And the cartilage that used to act as this perfect shock absorber has worn down over the years. Getting up just isn't an automatic reflex anymore.
It takes a conscious effort now.
It does. It's very calculated. But, the moment she navigates the smooth floor and hits the texture of the hallway rug, you can actually see her posture change.
Oh, the hesitation just vanishes.
Yeah, she makes it to the door, drops that unmistakable wedge-shaped head to the ground to catch a familiar scent, and for a split second, she is every bit the relentless, determined dog she was years ago.
I love that. The route might be shorter, and the pace is undeniably slower, but the curiosity is completely intact.
Definitely.
So today, we are taking a stack of incredibly insightful source materials and doing a deep dive into the profound art of caring for a senior bull terrier.
And it really is an art form.
It is. We're not talking about wrapping an aging dog in bubble wrap here, or pulling them out of the life they love. The mission for this deep dive is to look at how we adapt their physical world so they can maintain their autonomy and just keep participating comfortably.
Right, and defining when that adaptation needs to start is usually the first big hurdle. We tend to casually talk about dogs becoming seniors as if, I don't know, a biological alarm clock just rings on their 8th birthday.
Like a switch flips overnight.
Exactly. But aging is cellular. It is this highly complex, individualized mix of their genetics, the cumulative wear and tear on their joints over a lifetime, and, well, their specific medical history.
So a dog that has battled allergies or maybe carried 5 extra pounds for years is going to experience a totally different physiological timeline than a lean dog with perfect genetics.
Exactly right.
So if aging is cellular rather than calendar-based, it means we have to rely heavily on physical signs to know when they've crossed that threshold.
We do, yes.
But the sources highlight a massive pitfall here, because caregivers frequently fall into the trap of looking at every single behavioral change and just shrugging it off as, well, she's just getting old.
Yeah, confusing normal aging with an active disease process is incredibly common. I mean, normal aging involves a cellular slowdown. The metabolism drops, so they sleep more deeply.
That makes total sense.
And lactic acid takes longer to clear from their muscles. So, their recovery period after a hike stretches from a few hours to maybe a couple of days.
Right, those are just expected physiological realities.
But what isn't normal is a declining heart struggling to pump blood, or kidneys failing to filter toxins, or even a chronic oral infection.
Those are active diseases.
Right, but on the surface, they mimic the lethargy and slowness of ordinary aging perfectly.
Wow. And the challenge of spotting those diseases is really amplified by the specific psychology of this breed, right?
Yeah.
Because the Bull Terrier is famously stoic.
Extremely stoic. Yeah.
They are hardwired with this legendary determination that just allows them to push through intense, agonizing physical pain just to participate in whatever you are doing.
And we really have to look at the evolutionary biology of that stoicism. For an animal in a pack or an animal bred for high-stakes physical engagement, showing pain is basically a broadcast of vulnerability.
It's a weakness.
Exactly. Their brains are wired to dump adrenaline into their system the moment they are stimulated by their environment. And that adrenaline temporarily overrides the pain signals traveling from their joints to their central nervous system.
So they literally don't feel it in the moment.
Right. Because they are masking it, we have to look for micro clues.
Like what kind of clues?
Well, hesitating at the bottom of the staircase? Or maybe avoiding a jump onto the couch they used to make effortlessly. It could be a shortened stride, panting when they're just resting, or even a sudden flinch when you scratch a spot on their lower back that they used to lean into.
Oh, wow. And the sources actually gave a piece of advice that completely reframes how we should view their exercise. They say, do not evaluate a walk by whether your dog finished it.
That is such an important point.
Yeah, they said to evaluate it by how stiff they are the next morning.
Because during the walk, their environment is providing immense stimulation. The adrenaline is flowing, they will chase the squirrel, finish the mile loop, and honestly, look entirely thrilled doing it.
But then the adrenaline wears off.
Exactly. Overnight, that adrenaline clears, and the mechanical friction they endured on the walk triggers an immune response. It floods those compromised joints with inflammatory cytokines.
Oh, man. So the stiffness you see 12 hours later is basically their biology presenting you with the actual bill for that activity.
That is exactly what it is.
I always think of the stubbornly proud professional athlete who refuses to admit they tore a ligament. Like, they will play through the championship game on sheer willpower, but they literally cannot get out of bed the next day.
And that's a perfect analogy.
So if an animal is biologically programmed to hide their discomfort from you, protecting them from their own relentless drive means we can't trust them to tell us when enough is enough. Right?
Yeah.
We have to become proactive investigators.
We do. But the tricky part is, even when you become a proactive investigator, their physical bodies can create this crazy illusion of health.
How do you mean?
Well, think about the classic Bull Terrier silhouette. It's famously dense and muscular, right?
Yeah, very solid dogs.
That structural baseline makes it incredibly difficult to spot sarcopenia.
Sarcopenia is the age-related loss of muscle mass, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Visually, they still look broad and solid, even as the actual muscle fibers underneath are shrinking.
So just staring at them from across the room doesn't work.
Not at all.
The sources actually recommend deep hands-on checks, like physically feeling the density of the shoulders, the back, and the thighs. But, I always assumed the bathroom scale was the ultimate objective truth teller.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, like if my dog weighed 55 pounds for 5 years and she still weighs 55 pounds today, I would assume we were doing great. But the sources call this the scale trap. So how is a perfectly stable weight actually hiding a physical decline?
It all comes down to tissue density. You see, muscle is much denser and heavier than adipose tissue, which is just fat.
Okay, right.
So in a senior dog, they might be rapidly losing that heavy, dense muscle tissue in their hindquarters just due to inactivity. But at the exact same time, their slowing metabolism is causing them to store more lightweight body fat.
Oh, wow. So the scale just balances out.
Exactly. The total weight remains 55 pounds. It gives you this completely false sense of security while their actual body composition is deteriorating.
That is wild.
And it's dangerous because without that muscle mass acting as a shock absorber, their skeletal system takes the full, brutal impact of every single step.
Which sets up this seemingly impossible dietary paradox. Because extra weight is terrible, obviously. It puts a massive mechanical strain on aging joints and forces an aging heart to work harder.
Right, it has to pump blood through all that extra tissue.
But if you notice they are slowing down and you drastically cut their kibble to prevent weight gain, you are starving the very muscles that hold those joints together.
Yes, you are looking at a physiological tightrope there. You simply cannot starve a senior dog into an arbitrary target weight.
Because they need the protein.
Desperately.
Yeah.
They need high-quality, highly digestible amino acids to maintain whatever muscle mass they have left. A massive reduction in calories just accelerates the sarcopenia.
Right, that makes sense.
This is exactly why grabbing a bag of generic senior formula kibble off the shelf isn't a real strategy. Senior diets require clinical customization with a veterinarian. You have to balance the need for joint-protecting weight management against the critical need for muscle-preserving protein.
That is such a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And diet actually leads us directly into another massive hidden threat that the sources brought up: dental health.
Oh, yes. This is a big one.
This completely blew my mind because I always assumed a dog with a cracked tooth or a massive gum infection would just stop eating. But the sources say a dog will often continue to chew hard kibble right through severe, agonizing oral pain.
It is entirely true. The survival drive to consume calories completely overrides localized oral pain. They will eat.
But how can you tell they're in pain then?
If you observe the mechanics of how they are eating, the dysfunction is usually obvious. They might drop food out of the side of their mouth. Or they will take 3 times as long to finish a meal.
Oh, I see.
Or you might notice they subtly shift all the food to one side of their jaw to avoid a rotting tooth.
And caregivers probably misinterpret this all the time. Like, they think the dog is just becoming a picky eater in their old age.
Exactly. But the reality is far more dangerous than just a sore mouth. We aren't just talking about bad breath here.
No, the sources actually connect dental disease directly to major organ failure.
Right, because the mouth is a highly vascular area. When a dog has periodontal disease, bleeding gums, or massive plaque buildup, they are harboring chronic inflammation and literally millions of bacteria.
And that gets right into the bloodstream.
Every single time they chew, that bacteria gets pushed directly into their bloodstream. The heart pumps that bacteria-laden blood, which can colonize the heart valves, leading to endocarditis. And then the kidneys have to filter all that infected blood, which accelerates renal failure. So a rotting tooth isn't just a localized problem, it is a systemic assault on their major organs.
So basically, the bathroom scale is lying to you, and an empty food bowl is a false comfort because they will eat through tooth pain anyway.
Pretty much, yeah.
If the traditional metrics are completely unreliable, what baseline should you actually be using to measure their daily health? We have to shift our entire perspective, right? We're no longer measuring health by static numbers. We are measuring it by micro behaviors.
Exactly. You have to ask, how easily do they stand up? What is the physical density of their hindquarters?
And if we have to completely change how we measure their physical health, it means we also have to completely re-engineer how they interact with their physical environment.
Yes, and that re-engineering has to begin with exercise. The mandate here is to adapt, not abandon.
Right, an aging body just has a much narrower margin for error.
Exactly. That means warm-ups and cool-downs are now completely mandatory to get the synovial fluid moving before any real exertion. The focus needs to shift entirely away from distance and speed and move toward gentle exploration and dedicated sniffing time.
Which is funny because a slow, meandering sniff walk seems incredibly mundane to a human who just wants to get a mile in. But for a dog, it is basically their version of lingering over the Sunday crossword puzzle with a cup of coffee.
That's a great way to put it.
It engages them, it relaxes them, and it keeps the mind sharp without pounding their joints.
And you have to remember, the canine olfactory system is an absolute marvel of biology. A massive portion of their brain is dedicated purely to processing scent.
So it's real mental work for them.
Huge mental work. When a dog is deeply engaged in sniffing a fire hydrant or a patch of grass, they are processing incredibly complex chemical data. It burns significant energy.
Oh, I bet.
A 20-minute slow walk with intense olfactory stimulation will often leave a senior dog more deeply satisfied and ready for a nap than a forced, high-impact 2-mile march along an asphalt path.
But here is the behavioral trap. We know this breed has that stoic, relentless drive. A senior Bull Terrier with fading joints still has that puppy brain.
They absolutely do.
They see a tennis ball, and their instant instinct is to just launch themselves off the deck to go get it. Their willingness to sprint does not mean their skeleton can handle the impact. So how do you enforce a speed limit on a dog without breaking their spirit or making them utterly miserable?
Well, you basically take on the role of an environmental editor.
An environmental editor.
Yes. You don't eliminate the joy of the game, you eliminate the concussive force. So instead of launching a ball 50 yards across a park for them to sprint after, you pivot to low-impact, high-reward engagement.
Like nose work.
Exactly. You hide a high-value toy in the house and ask them to use their nose to find it. Or you run through short, mentally taxing obedience drills. You provide the dopamine hit of the hunt, but you systematically remove the high-speed physical impact that causes the micro-tears in their aging ligaments.
You manage the parameters of the environment so their stoic nature doesn't destroy their body.
Precisely.
And editing the environment becomes even more critical when we factor in sensory decline. Because vision and hearing loss totally change how a dog maps their world.
It really does.
The sources note that a deaf dog might sleep incredibly deeply because they lack ambient noise to keep them alert. And because of that, they might startle aggressively if you touch them while they are asleep.
Right, and that startle response is simply a defense mechanism. To mitigate it, you have to change how you communicate with them.
So how do you approach a deaf dog safely?
You approach them purely in their line of sight. You can stomp gently on the floor so they feel the vibration before you reach out to pet them. And you transition entirely to the hand signals that, ideally, you've been building into their foundation since they were young.
That makes total sense. And vision changes are equally subtle, right?
Yeah.
They might hesitate in dim light, struggle to gauge the depth of a staircase, or bump into the coffee table.
Yes, and the solution for vision loss is incredibly straightforward. You just have to stop rearranging the living room.
Just leave the furniture alone.
Exactly. A dog with failing vision relies heavily on a cognitive map of your house. They know exactly how many paces it takes to get from the rug to their water bowl.
And if you move the sofa 3 feet to the left, you completely destroy that map.
You do. But honestly, the most catastrophic feature of any home environment for a senior dog isn't the furniture layout.
What is it?
It's the flooring.
Ah, smooth hardwood, tile, and linoleum. The absolute enemy of the senior dog.
Yes, and to understand why, you just have to look at the biomechanics of a dog's foot.
Right, because they walk on their toes, don't they?
Exactly. Dogs are digitigrade animals, meaning they walk entirely on their toes. When a young, heavily muscled dog walks on a slick floor, their muscles are constantly making thousands of invisible microcorrections to maintain balance.
But an older dog can't do that.
No, when an older dog loses that muscle mass, they lose the ability to stabilize. Every single step on smooth hardwood involves microslips. Their hips splay out.
Oh, that sounds awful.
It is physically exhausting and terrifying for them. It spikes their cortisol.
That completely explains why the sources say a dog might refuse to go to their water bowl or stare blankly at the back door while holding their bladder simply because there's a 6-foot stretch of linoleum in the way.
They are quite literally trapped by the floor.
But the fix for that is incredibly simple, right? Rugs, runners, cheap yoga mats. You just throw them down and you instantly restore their confidence.
You are giving them back their grip, which essentially gives them back their autonomy. And speaking of grip, that brings up another easily overlooked adaptation: nail care.
Oh, because when a dog's activity level drops, they aren't grinding their nails down on the pavement naturally on long walks.
Right, and because they walk on their toes, long nails must totally change the geometry of their foot.
It does, doesn't it?
It changes the mechanics of their entire skeleton. When those long nails hit the floor, it forces the dog's toes to splay apart, which destroys their natural grip.
Oh, wow.
Furthermore, that pressure pushes their weight backward onto their heels. It actually changes the angle of their wrists, their elbows, and their spine.
So a simple lack of nail maintenance literally cascades into chronic skeletal pain and an absolute loss of traction on those smooth floors.
It really does. It's a huge issue.
Well, creating this navigable external environment is obviously vital, but the sources are clear that adapting the home is really only half the battle.
True.
The other half involves decoding the subtle behavioral changes that point to massive internal systemic failures, specifically the heart and the kidneys,
And these organs have immense compensatory reserves.
meaning they could be failing for a long time before we actually see it.
Yes, they can be quietly failing for a very long time before the dog shows any outward distress. With heart disease, the mechanical pump basically begins to fail. Fluid backs up into the lungs.
So what do we look out for?
The symptoms aren't just fatigue. You will see a persistent dry cough, especially at night or after mild exertion, or maybe even a sudden fainting spell because the brain is starved of oxygen.
And with the kidneys, the classic signs are increased thirst and increased urination. I think a lot of people just assume an old dog naturally drinks more water.
It's a very common misconception.
But why does kidney failure actually trigger that intense thirst?
Well, the kidneys function as a highly complex filtration system. When they fail, the microscopic structures inside them lose the ability to concentrate urine. They can no longer separate the waste from the water.
Oh, I see.
So the water the dog drinks just flushes straight through their system, pulling out all those essential electrolytes with it. The dog becomes systemically dehydrated.
So they aren't just a little parched.
No, their internal water reclamation system is entirely broken. This is exactly why you cannot diagnose organ failure just by looking at a dog's coat or their weight. You need routine blood work and a urinalysis to see the actual chemical reality.
And that chemical reality really forces us to reframe what we perceive as bad behavior.
Absolutely.
Take house soiling, for example. An older dog starts having accidents on the rug. The sources say it is so crucial to approach this with compassion, not frustration, because it is never spiteful or vindictive.
Never. A dog that has been reliably house-trained for a decade is going to be incredibly distressed when they soil their own living space. It is a physiological failure.
Right.
The kidneys are producing too much unconcentrated urine. Or maybe their hips are just too weak to get them off the dog bed and out the back door in time. Or they are experiencing cognitive dysfunction and simply forget the protocol.
Which brings us to the behavior that causes massive anxiety for owners: nighttime restlessness. pacing, panting, staring at the walls at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, caregivers frequently leap to the most devastating conclusion there. They see pacing at night and instantly assume it is canine cognitive dysfunction.
Doggy dementia.
Right. And while that is a possibility, you have to remember the nervous system is highly sensitive at night. The ambient temperature drops, and aging dogs' ability to regulate their body temperature degrades, so they might honestly just be freezing or overheating.
That makes sense.
Or the synovial fluid in their joints settles, causing a spike in arthritis pain. They might just have a full bladder. Before assuming the brain is failing, you have to rule out all those basic physical discomforts.
Okay, I have to push back here for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
It is so easy to jump straight to the worst case scenario. If I am supposed to be this proactive investigator, monitoring every time my dog pants at night, every time she hesitates at a stare, analyzing the way she chews her kibble, and guessing if she's hot, cold, or in pain,
Sounds like a lot.
I am going to become a completely neurotic helicopter parent. Tracking every single microbehavior sounds like a fast track to caregiver burnout.
Yeah.
At what point does being observant just cross the line into total paranoia?
That is a very fair point, and caregiver burnout is a massive, very real threat. But the goal of tracking isn't to feed your anxiety, it is to externalize it.
What do you mean by externalize it?
When a dog paces at 2 a.m., the emotional part of your brain panics. But if you keep a physical log and you actually write down, paced at 2 a.m., let her out, she urinated and went right back to sleep, you transform that panic into data.
Oh, I see.
A simple log of good days versus bad days forces objectivity. You aren't operating on emotion anymore. You are building a clear, honest picture of their actual quality of life to share with your veterinarian.
And that data directly supports the biggest overarching theme of all our sources today, which is that pain is not just an unavoidable consequence of getting old.
It is the most vital takeaway of all. You do not have to accept chronic pain as a biological given. We have incredible management tools at our disposal today.
Right, like meds and rehab.
Exactly. There are targeted pharmaceuticals, physical rehabilitation therapies, and of course, the profound environmental adaptations we've been discussing. Quality of life is defined by manageable comfort, the ability to move without agony, restful sleep, and staying connected to the family pack.
So a dog can have an incredibly rich, fulfilling life, even if they are deaf, even if their vision is cloudy, and even if they require a padded ramp just to get over the single step onto the back porch.
Yes, absolutely. And when you track those good and bad days objectively, it empowers you to have honest, pre-crisis conversations about end-of-life care with your vet.
Because planning for the end is not an admission of defeat, right?
Not at all. It is the ultimate act of profound care. It ensures that when the time comes, your decisions are anchored in their comfort, not driven by your panic in an emergency room.
Good senior care rarely looks like a dramatic, high-stakes medical intervention. It really is just a quiet, continuous series of loving adjustments.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
It is throwing a cheap yoga mat over the slippery linoleum. It is replacing the 2-mile hike with 20 minutes of letting them dissect the scents on a single patch of grass.
Yeah.
It is moving their supportive orthopedic bed directly into the kitchen so they can still watch you make dinner without actually having to stand up. It's doing the subtle structural work to keep them right in the middle of the life they love.
You are choosing to adapt the world to fit the animal, rather than forcing a failing body to struggle in a world it can no longer navigate safely.
And that leaves us with a final concept to mull over. We have spent this entire deep dive exploring how aging beautifully for a resilient, stoic animal is entirely dependent on modifying their physical environment to preserve their autonomy and their dignity.
We have.
But think about this. How might applying that exact same philosophy, adapting the physical world rather than restricting the individual, completely change the way we view, accommodate, and support the aging humans in our own lives?
Wow, that is a remarkable connection. The mechanics of aging don't really change just because the species does.
It shifts the entire paradigm, from the slippery kitchen floor all the way up to how we structure our communities. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the canine world. We'll see you next time.